Welcome to Creative Tien channel. Today I'm going to knit a head with ears using the short row on LK150 knitting machine. First, I have some recommendations for knitting books. They have master pattern and it's easy to adapt them into machine knitting. And the first book is called Teach Yourself Visually Knitting. And they have pretty much everything basic. Even though this is the hand knitting book, you can still modify them for machine knitting. And they have a lot of pictures and various size in different gauges, so including adult, kids. So it's a good starting point if you're not sure what's the stitch count for machine knitting. Another book I recommend is the Top-Down Sweaters by Ann Budd. It's a hand knitting book, but it has all the basic pattern in different sizes, adults, kids, and in different gauges. So you can pick your own gauge, pick the finished size, and know the stitch count. And you can translate that into machine knitting. For today's head pattern, the total stitch count for the cast on is about 80 stitches. For adult size, I'm using the regular medium weight yarn, and my stitch count is 4 stitches per inch and about 5 rows per inch. And for this pattern, I'm going to start from one side and go up and reduce 1 stitch here on both sides, 1 stitch here, and then I will do the short row ears. We can start with 43 stitches. That's only one side, and we are going to knit from bottom up, do the short row ears, and then knit it back. So we only need a half of the round stitch count. So 43, and we reduce 1 here, reduce 1 here. That will be 41, and then we reduce 1 on each side again. So it'll be 39 stitch. And I can decide how many stitches I want for the ears. Since we have 39, I can do 13 stitches. 1/3 for each area. And you can adjust that according to your preference. I will do a peacock hand. I will just move every other stitch to the next stitch and fold it back up, so it will be double length. I need to knit double length. So if I have 5 rows per inch, then I will need to knit totally 10 rows. And depends on how tall you want your head to be. Usually for adult, I would say around 7 inches. So 7 inch times 5, 35 rows. And then we will decrease here and here. You can start decrease lower or higher. I will keep it 1/3, so it's 2 inch, 2 inch, 2 inch, and then 1 inch here. So we start by casting on 43 stitches. I have from left 21 to right 22, and I'm just going to do E-rub cast on and start knitting the hem. And for the tension, I have it on number 9, the highest tension on LK150. And the massed tension is number 7. I will start by knitting 5 rows. I'm going to hang some weight first. I start from the second stitch, move to the first, and leave the empty needle in the B position so you will knit back. And we'll just keep repeating that the fourth stitch to the third and needle back to the B position. Now I finished the transfer. I'm going to knit 5 more rows. That's after 5 more rows. Now I'm going to hand the edge back. So take off the weight and pick up the cast on edge and hand it back. There's a horizontal bar here, and I will just pick up that bar. After hand it back, you can see it creates some kind of curve. That's the edge. And it's easier to push all the needles out first for this row because you'll be a little bit tight. Now I'm going to knit 10 rows and start decrease. Now after 10 rows, I can decrease 1 stitch on each side. And my preferred is the full fashion decrease. I use a 3-prong. Take out the 3 stitches and move 1 stitch in. So it has a nice edge. And the same on the right side. Move 1 stitch in. And the empty needle should go back to A, so we don't need it. The next part we'll do the same 10 rows and reduce 2 stitches. Now we are done with the first 2 parts. Now I'm going to knit 10 rows and then we'll start doing the short row. Now we are at this point, we are ready to do the short row ears. And we have 39 stitches, so I divide it into 13, 13, 13. And it's the same way as a sock knitting short row. We will focus on one area first and put the other stitches on hold. And after this one's done, we will move the carriage to the other side and put this area on hold and knit the ear. Our carriage is on the right side now, so we will start with the first 13th stitch on the right. I have 10, 13 here, so the other stitches I will move to the D position, the non-working position. And the same as our socks short row, I will move the rustle lever to 1, so it will not need the stitches in the D position. The same on this side. There are many ways to do the short row, and I will do an easy one, the same with the sock short row. I will move the needle that's far away from the carriage first to the D position. So you will not knit, and I will knit 1 row. And I will do the same again, the 1 stitch that's far away from the carriage, push to D position. And this time I have to rub the yarn under the previous needle to prevent any holes. And then we'll knit 1 row. And I will keep repeating that. Move 1 stitch out and rub the yarn under. And make sure you have enough weight here. I will add some claw weight, and I'm also going to hold it with my hand. And for the ears, I'm going to continue doing that until there's only one stitch left. Now I only have one stitch. I'm going to do the reverse show row. And for the reverse show row, I'm going to move this needle that's close to the carriage to the C position. So the latch is slightly open, and move the yarn below that needle. So rub it under, and the stitch will be in the C position. So this needle will be knitted. And I'm also make sure I have weight here and knit it back. Now that needle is knitted, and we'll continue the needle near the carriage side. Place the yarn under and place to C position. And we'll keep doing that until all 13 stitches are knitted back. Now we have 12. We can do one more. Now we have 13 needles back. We are done with the show row. You can see we create a pocket here. And now I want to move my carriage to the left side, and we'll do the left ear. I want to just knit one row back to the other side, so the yarn will be on the left side. The easiest way is to move the rustle lever back to number 2, so it will knit all stitches. The same on the right side. And it's easier to move all the needles to D and knit one row. Now our carriage is on the left side, and we can do the same on the left ears. So we count 30 stitches and move all other needles to D. And to prepare the show row, move the rustle lever back to 1 on both sides. And we'll do the same way. I start with the needle away from the carriage and knit one row. And rub the yarn under that needle and move the one needle that's away from the carriage. And we'll keep repeating that. Move the needle out, rub the yarn under. Keep repeating until we only have one needle left. Now we only have one needle left. I'm going to do the reverse show row. Just rub the yarn under the needle that's closer to the carriage. Move to the C position. And now we'll do this needle that's close to the carriage side. Move it to the C position. And we'll repeat that until all 13 stitches are back. And make sure you hold down to the center because it can get very loose. Now we have 12 stitches, one more under the needle, back to C. Now we are back with all the 13 stitches, and you can see the pocket here. So the next thing, we are going to knead it back down. However, the row count you have, we need that row count. And then we are going to increase 2 stitches on each side. So instead of decrease, we are going to increase. And then we'll need 10 rows, increase again, need 10 rows, and we'll start doing the trim. So first we want to make sure we will knead through everything. So set the rustle lever back to number 2 for plain knitting. I'm going to move my weight up. So I will set the stitch count back to 0, and I will knead 10 rows. After 10 rows, we can increase. I'm going to use a 3-prong tool again. Move 1 stitch out. And for the empty one, I'm going to pick up the horizontal bar of the next needle. Like that. And place it to the empty needle. And everything back to the B. The same on the left side. I will move 1 stitch out and pick up the horizontal bar of the next stitch and place on the empty needle. Now we are ready to knit the next 10 rows. After the second 10 rows, we'll do the increase again on the left side and the right side. So that's our second increase here. We'll do 10 more rows and then we'll start the hem. Now we are ready for the hem. I will just do 5 rows of plain stitches and transfer to every other needle and then knit 5 more rows. And you can use a smaller tension for the trim. It's up to you. So I knit 5 rows. And then transfer every other stitch. The second needle transfer to the first. And keep the empty needle in the B position. After transferring, I'm going to push out all the needles and knit the last 5 rows. I can just bind off and then fold it in half for the trim and sew it with yarn and needle. Or I can just count 5 rows. And then hand the 5th row back. Now I hand the 5th rows back for the trim. I'm going to use a needle and cut a long yarn, at least 3 times of this length, and just thread it through to bind off. My yarn is on the left, so I start with the left side. Front to the back. And then back to the front for the first needle. And when the stitch is worked twice, you can take it off the needle. Here is the ear. And we just need to sew up the side seams. So that's our final hat for today. I hope you like this project. You can modify it to any size you want. Thank you so much for watching today and see you in the next video.